Good morning, everyone. I am Sharon Tubbs. For those who do not know me, is there anyone who doesn't know me? This is funny. So thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your presence. We are very grateful for you. This is, of course, the Allen County Health Equity Coalition meeting. We've got some great presentations this morning for you. First of all, I want to thank everyone who was able to come out and support us for the annual Rethinking Health fundraiser. How many of you were able to come? Okay, yeah, we got a couple who were able to come, and online were able to come. We had a pretty full house, and it was an awesome time. What we really appreciated about that event was that people were able to leave, the feedback that we got was that people left enlightened with new information about women and implicit bias in our community, and they left feeling empowered to do something great, okay? Empowered to do something great. So that is what we want to do with all of our events. We want to give information, and we want to deposit in you a motivation, some type of inspiration to do something great. So thank you all for coming. If you did not come, do not despair, because we have the whole recording online on our YouTube page. So if you just go to HealthVisions Midwest on YouTube, you will see the video. Is it up there on the it's up there at the top, I think, or it's somewhere on there. Don't do the last year's one with the orange suit. Yeah, so 2023. And we had a lot of recognitions. We had people in the community who won Dignity Awards that were nominated by you in the community. And so we were able to let people know that we saw them. We were able to recognize one of our long-standing people in HealthVisions who laid the foundation for what we are doing today, Renetta Williams. The team sang "We Are the World." It was amazing. In Spanish and Burmese, so you gotta check it out. Lupita was on the mic.
Very impressive.
So, if you didn't go to that, you want to see that. So right now, though, what I want to do is I want to start us off with the meditation. So for those of you who may be unaware, we are a faith-based organization. However, we don't want to eliminate people or isolate people who don't feel the same way that we do spiritually. So I'm going to go through this meditation. If it's not your thing and you really feel led to turn down the volume, please feel welcome to do so. And then to tune back in probably in about 30 seconds, okay? This morning's meditation is called Honoring Our Workday. It is adapted from Kevin Halloran. Establish the work of our hands by helping us to be productive, patient, focused, and insightful. Keep us from distractions and from technology hindering our work instead of helping it. May your spirit lead us in our work and help us to be joyful, creative, and worshipful, constantly reminding us of your love and that you're the reason we have breath in our lungs. Teach us to align our work, our family, our spiritual life, and rest in a way that would maximize your glory and allow us to bear the most fruit for your kingdom. And as we work, fix our eyes on you, the one who gave us treasure we could not earn, rest that we could not otherwise experience, and a living hope that will fuel us to work for the glory of God. Amen. So now we like that, giving us a little calming presence as we begin some important work this morning. We have Elka Jackson, who's going to talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is October. And then we're going to have one of our own team members, Nia Hinton, talk about lead, an issue that is kind of faded in recent in recent years, but it's coming back up for a very important reason. So those are our speakers today, but before we even get into that, we want to do introductions. So we want to have people in the room, people in the room and people who are online to just introduce yourself and tell us what agency you are representing. And if it is your first time, say, I'm a first timer, okay? I'm a first timer. So we're going to start online first and start with Ann.
Good morning, Ann Hall from CTN.
Okay, Ann's not a first timer.
No.
Cassandra. Cassandra from Stillwater. Is that her audio still logging?
Her audio
Okay,
might still be connected.
sorry about that. All right, Dee.
Hey, you guys, I'm Dee. I'm from Positive Resource Connection. I'm not a first timer.
You are definitely not. Thank you, Dee. Lily.
Hello, I am Lily with Stop Suicide Northeast Indiana, and I've attended one other meeting.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Thanks for coming again. Celia.
Good morning. My name is Celia Reyes. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for MD Wise.
Thank you, Celia. Yolanda.
Good morning. I'm Yolanda Hemp with Shepherd's Hand Community Center.
Yes, Yolanda's been with us as well. Maria.
I am Maria Hines. I'm from IU Fort Wayne School of Nursing.
Okay, we've done a number of partnerships with IU. Kelsey.
Good morning, I'm Kelsey Owen, and I'm with the Nutrition Department with Aging and In-Home Services of Northeast Indiana.
Kelsey, one of our partners for HEAL. Okay, Meg is on the line. Meg.
Good morning. I am an old timer, Meg Disler with the St. Joe Community Health Foundation.
All right, Meg. Carlos.
Good morning. I'm Carlos. I'm with Neighborhood Health.
Okay, wonderful. Carlos. Patricia.
Good morning, Pat Turner with Tobacco Free Allen County.
Another one of our partners. Laura. Laura, you're muted.
Sorry. Laura Dwyer, Catholic Charities Fort Wayne Center. Definitely not my first.
Okay. What did she say? Oh, not her first. Okay. Laura's one of our advisors. Ty.
Hi, my name is Ty and I'm with Brightpoint.
Okay. And Heather.
Good morning. My name is Heather Essex Guy. I'm with YWCA Northeast Indiana. I'm the Racial Justice Coordinator.
Awesome. Okay. Now let's go in the room, go around here. JJ.
JJ Foster, Lake City Bank.
Okay. Not a first timer.
Oh, sorry. Shelby, be a member. It is my first time, and I'm with Great Heights ABA.
Thank you. Let's give a little clap for Shelby. Okay.
I am Carrie with Great Heights ABA, and Shelby will be coming in my place because I'm having a baby very soon.
Oh, well, congratulations. When does the baby due?
November 16th.
You do not look like that baby is due November 16th.
I feel like that baby.
Okay. Yes.
I'm Megan with CareSource.
Okay.
Brandy with Anthem Medicaid. Kelly Bauman with Associated Churches. Not my first time.
Not your first time.
I'm Julie Reese with Associated Churches Journey Beside Mothers. Not my first time, but maybe third.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. We'll get to staff in a minute.
I'm Audrey Dominguez. I'm here with Al.
Lovely.
Elka Jackson, Center for Nonviolence.
Okay.
Brenda Hoffman, Christian Community Healthcare.
All right, and so now let's introduce our staff. Starting over here with Peggy.
Peggy Hayes, Celebrated Fort Wayne.
Everybody knows Peggy.
Yep.
Back here.
Lupita.
Lupita, she just one word, that's enough for her. Our bilingual coordinator, Lupita Valdez.
Cassius, wellness coordinator.
Cassius.
Nia Hinton, Healthy Child Advocate.
First time.
First time.
First.
Oh, it is the first time. That is right. Nia is our newest member of the team. Yes, doing a spectacular job. Go ahead.
I'm Felicia Say, and I'm the office manager.
All right, everybody knows Felicia. Everybody contacts Felicia. All right, so we are grateful for everyone who's been here today. Let's get into the great presentations that we have. Coming up, we have Elka Jackson. And you know what, Elka, I'm gonna be transparent here. I just realized that I didn't bring your bio in here.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. So Elka's gonna introduce herself. Elka, come on up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, come on up and, so Elka, is with the Center for Nonviolence. And I actually got, one of the newsletters from Center for Nonviolence recently and realized that, this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Elka has done some things with us in the past, and she's a phenomenal speaker and a wonderful advocate for domestic violence. Everybody, I think, or maybe not everybody, but many of you know the work that the Center for Nonviolence does. And they do great work in this community. But Elka's going to enlighten us about some things that we can do as partners, and some new information about domestic violence. So Elka, I think I did kind of introduce you though.
You certainly did.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Elka, Center for Nonviolence. I'm one of the executive directors at the center, also an operations coordinator, and the center's very brighter. I wear a million different hats at the center, and I'm also formerly a program staff person back in the day. And so I've done just about everything there is to do at CFN. And so when Sharon contacted me, you know, she said, there's only gonna be about 20 minutes, but I have jam-packed as much information as I can for y'all into 20 minutes as possible. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was get everyone updated on the data, okay? Because data speaks. I know that it's not always the most interesting thing for some people, but there are stories behind these numbers. And so I always think it's really important for people, if I can't give you anything else, I want you to get the scope of what's happening. Does that kind of make sense? Everybody down with that? Okay, cool, here we go. All right. Okay, so.
Did I go too fast for you?
No, not at all, you're good. So one of the things that I love to start any presentation with, or any training that I do, is this quote from a survivor. And this quote was part of an amicus brief that was submitted in the Hammond-Davis case last year. And the Hammond-Davis case, for those of you who may not be aware, was a case involving protective orders and gun rights, and just it was quite messy. But the survivor, one of the survivors involved in that case, said this. She said, I guess I just want to explain that in real life, it's not easy to testify against someone you love, someone who has hurt you, someone you're afraid of, someone you depend on, someone you have a child with, or someone who scares the hell out of you. For me and for a lot of other domestic violence survivors, all of these things are in one person. So, when people ask the question, why doesn't she just leave? They're asking the wrong question, right? The question should be, why is the abuser abusing? But we always put this onus on survivors. And so she wanted to explain this to try to give people some sense of what her daily lived experience is like. Okay, so here we go. Let's just jump right into these stats. So one of the things that is really important to understand with domestic or intimate partner violence is that it is gender-based. We are talking about gender-based violence. Yes, men are survivors. There are men who are survivors. We have worked with men who are survivors. But it is still very much a gender-based issue in the sense that women and children are predominantly the victims, okay? And so what that means is that across the country, the average is approximately 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men will report having experienced some form of intimate partner violence. And for physical violence, it's about 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 7 men for just physical violence. Women who are members of BIPOC, refugee, immigrant, and transgender communities are at higher risk for violence and abuse than any other group of women, right? So higher than any other group of cisgender women. Medical costs. 5.3 million intimate partner victimizations occur in the US, women 18 and older every year, and this results in about 2 million injuries every year, more than 550 of which require medical attention. So quite a drain on our services. DV and IPV cost approximately 4.9 billion in the US every year, and 70% of that is directly related to healthcare costs. 30% of that is related to lost productivity and lost wages. So, you know, again, economically, we're hit by this. All of our social services systems, our healthcare systems are hit by domestic violence. We're all impacted. The federal government spends about $55 billion every year on addressing the effects of childhood exposure to DV. Imagine what we could do with $55 billion for youth, right? Other than having to heal their trauma from DV. And then a final little data point for you there. Children with untreated trauma from exposure to violence experience higher rates of healthcare costs, crime, violence, incarceration, lost productivity, and lost wages throughout their adulthood. That probably is not a surprise to anyone in this room. Now, statewide, what's happening in Indiana? So in Indiana, we are 8th in the nation for the highest reported cases of DV. So not really one of our proudest shining moments here in the Hoosier state. DV and IPV is one of the most underreported crimes in the state. 42% of women in Indiana report experiencing some form of DV and IPV. And again, that's just the reported numbers. So if you consider women who are not reporting, that number is far higher. 83% of all DV and IPV victims in Indiana are women. 24% higher DV rate here in Indiana. We have a 24% higher DV rate than what the national average is. We have the second highest child abuse rate in the nation, and then 9 out of every 1,000 children will experience some form of abuse or neglect, and that is 2 times the national average. So it's a problem. It's a real problem here in the state. Community impact. Couple of interesting data points here for us in terms of what's going on locally in Fort Wayne and Allen County. Fort Wayne PD reports that in 2022, DV calls ranked 6th on the top 10 list of calls for service. And that's been pretty consistent, especially since COVID. That number has been really consistent. It's been right around 5 and 6 every year for about the past 3-4 years. And then here, I give a breakdown of what that looks by quadrant. So in the southeast, we have 44,000. In the northwest, 40,000. Southwest, 31,000. Northeast, 25,000. And then police responded to a total of almost 7,000 DV calls in 2022. And then finally, the COVID impact. From 2020 to 2021, here in Indiana, we saw a 113% increase in DV-related deaths and a 74% increase in DV firearm-related deaths. All right, so let's talk about who's most impacted. So, you know, DV hits everyone. It doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care what socioeconomic status you are. But there are some contributing factors that will exacerbate the prevalence of DV for certain groups of people, right? And so top of the list for who is most impacted, Black and brown women. I mean, there's no getting around that fact. 45% of Black women and 40% of Black men have experienced some form of sexual, physical, or other forms of violence, including stalking, in their lifetime. Over 36% of Black women have experienced some form of sexual violence in their lifetime, and over 22% of Black women have reported being raped in their lifetime. 30% of Latinx survivors and 15% of Asian survivors have experienced domestic and intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And then 4 out of 5 Indigenous women reported that they'd been victims of physical and sexual violence, with 96% of those women reporting saying that their abuser or their attacker was non-Indigenous. All right. Homicide. Homicide is the leading cause of death for women aged 44 and younger, and Black and Native Alaskan women experience the highest rates of homicide, DV-related homicide. In homicide cases where Black and Native Alaskan women were the victims, over half, about 55%, involved intimate partner violence. Guns were the reported weapon that was used in 54% of all homicide cases where the victims were women. And Black women are the most likely to be killed by firearms. BIPOC survivors are more likely to be killed by someone they know. 29% of Black homicide victims are significantly more likely to be killed by an acquaintance or intimate partner than their white counterparts. It's about 15% for white cisgender women. Black women are 11 times more likely than white women to be murdered while pregnant or in the first year following childbirth. And BIPOC sexual assault survivors are 4 times, about 4.1 times more likely to contemplate suicide and 13 times more likely to actually make a suicide attempt. So really scary numbers. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? And one of the things that Sharon had asked me to talk about was, what can we all do as people who are, in many cases witnessing or caring about, people who have experienced violence, people who are surviving violence, even people who are using violence, right? And so I always like to talk about change, because change can happen. But there are things we have to look out for, right? So what I did was I gave us some red flags and some green flags, things that we can all sort of pay attention to in situations where we know or suspect DV or IPV is going on. So with red flags, you're looking for any pattern of abusive behavior. And with DV and IPV, it is a pattern, right? We're not talking about a one-off. We're not talking about, people just got into a nasty fight or that happens, every once in a while. We're talking about a deliberate pattern of behavior that abusive people are engaging in, okay? It's deliberate, it's systemic, it's happening over and over. I'll change if you change too. These are phrases that I literally called up from my many years of working with men in our intervention, our men's intervention program. These are things that they would say, okay, about what it took for them to change. I'll change if she changes too. You have to help me change, right? Like somehow this is the survivor's responsibility. She has to help him change. Why aren't you giving me any credit for changing? Why don't you trust me? How could you think I would do that? I'm doing everything you wanted me to do. When are you coming back? Right? So if you hear people saying phrases like this, then you can question whether or not they are seriously, wanting to change, right? Usually not. What they're wanting is to get their way with the survivor. But over here though, here's the good news. Here's some green flags for us. If there are situations where that abusive person is respecting a survivor's opinions, ideas, accepts their right to express their own feelings and emotions, that's a green flag. If they're respecting the survivor's right to freedom and independence, including having relationships, that's the most important thing, having relationships outside of the abusive person, that's a green flag. If the abusive person is respecting a survivor's bodily autonomy, that one is huge. Abusive people, they feel like they are in charge of their victims' bodies, period, full stop, right? But if they are respecting their survivor's bodily autonomy, then that's a green flag. If they stop making excuses for their violence and they stop blaming the survivor, if they're being more considerate of others when it comes to, for example, decision making. Supporting rather than criticizing or undermining a survivor's goals or their strengths, that's a green flag. And if they're acknowledging falling back on past patterns of behavior, but they're course correcting also, they're not just coming with empty apologies, but they're actually making changes once they, mess up, and they will. But they acknowledge that and they change the behavior, that's a positive sign. And then finally, consistency. Just like DV and IPV is a pattern of abuse, change is also a consistent pattern that's being displayed. And I'm sorry, y'all, it's very hot up here, so forgive me if I'm like sweating like a little stuck pig and waving at myself.
I gave her a fan.
Waving at myself up here. You sure did. Where's my church fan? Okay. Yes, the church fan. Okay.
I'll turn up the air.
Oh,
Elka,
you're fine. I'm almost,
I think I missed, what is IPV?
Intimate partner violence.
Okay.
Yeah, so domestic violence, everybody, is the whole full range of violence that is happening between intimate family members. So that, could include children, it could include other relatives. Intimate partner violence is the violence that's happening specifically between sexual or romantic partners. Okay. All right, so what can you do? Because that was the other piece that Sharon wanted me to speak to really quickly. What can we do, right? What resources are out there? So what I've done is given each of our programs, okay, each of the services that we offer at the center, and you can refer people, right? Like, you don't have to have an answer. And in fact, it's best not to act as if you have all the answers, right? When you're dealing with a survivor or even dealing with an abusive person. Your role is to listen and say, that must be really hard. That must be really hard. But hey, you know what? Here's this resource for you. You don't have to call them, but if you ever feel like you need to or want to, here's their information. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fix it, right? You also have to take care of yourself as someone who may know or care about or love a survivor or an abusive person or a child who is witnessing and experiencing violence. You have to take care of yourself as well and not feel guilty about that. So we offer prevention services. One of our most popular programs is our FACES Nonviolent Leadership Program, and that is a school and community-based program. And our FACES leadership team, oh my God, they do amazing work with kiddos. They're currently in, I think it's 4 schools right now. It's typically about 4 schools every year, 4 to 5 schools every year. And that program has been running for, I believe, almost 15 years or so. So they work with kiddos in the schools, and then they also have a summer FACES program where they're working with kiddos in the community. So they're working at McMillan Park every summer, and then there are library branches that they also do the FACES program, and it's a real hit. The kids love it, parents love it, the schools definitely love it. But it is a way to try to stop all of this before it starts, right? So we have prevention services. We also have, of course, our support and advocacy services. These services, all of our services, are culturally affirming, but especially our support and advocacy services. It's really important that survivors get to work with people who look like them, and who know their lived experience culturally. And so we have several different kinds of support groups, all of which run weekly, okay? We have support groups that are just general open support groups. Those are our English support groups. Then we have Mujeres Unidas, which is our Latinx support group. We have Sister to Sister, which is specifically for women of African descent. And then we have an L+ group for LGBTQ plus folks, okay? And then finally, we have intervention services for folks who are using violence. And these services are for men and women. We see men here on the material, but we have women in our intervention programs too. Those are 2 different kinds of programs. Some of what's happening overlaps, but women's intervention is really a unique and wholly different kind of thing, because the majority of women who are using violence are actually survivors themselves. And so you have to be very careful with how you approach intervention services for that segment of the population. And I think we might be the only women's intervention program in Fort Wayne and Allen County. I know we're the only one in Northeast Indiana. So we, we touch people all along the spectrum, no matter where they fall, whether they're surviving violence, whether they are children who are witnessing and experiencing violence, or whether they're using violence. We've got services that are especially tailored for those individuals. All right, and that's it, everybody. I'm sorry I went so fast, but I wanted to be mindful of time. And so there is all of our information. You can hit us up on our website or social media, all that good stuff. And Sharon, do you want me to take questions now?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the intervention services, is that like mostly court ordered people, or are they like self?
Yeah, we have, I would say it's mostly court-ordered folks, but we also have people who are self-referrals.
Okay.
Yeah, and usually those self-referrals are folks who are in situations where someone has come to them and has said, you have to do something about this, or this is over, right? So usually partners have said, I'm out of here for real and for good if you do not change. And an interesting thing that happens too is we've had employers refer employees to us for intervention services. We've also had pastors refer their male parishioners to us, who are using violence against their partners and their children, have referred to us. So yeah, it's quite a few are through the system, but there are many who are self-referred, who they come because they really have taken seriously the message that they have to change. Yeah.
And Elka, there's a question online that asks, who has the highest child abuse rate in the nation?
Oh, in the nation, that I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. Yeah, but that's a great question. I'm happy to find that information out and get back to whoever asked that if you want to hit me up with an email later,
Okay.
Felicia.
Yep, and I'll send it out.
Thank you. Great question.
Okay,
Sharon.
why do you think Indiana ranks so high? You said they're number 8, right?
Yes, 8th in the nation. I think there are a lot of reasons. Many of them are political, but I will try not to get on that soapbox this morning. But we rank high in a lot of risk factors here in Indiana. And honestly, y'all, I think it comes down to a mindset. I think it comes down to a mindset that people are supposed to just lift themselves up by their bootstraps. I think there's a lot of just world thinking that happens in Indiana, which is, this belief system that if something's happening to you, it's your fault. You must have done something to deserve it, because people are mostly good. So if someone's not being good to you, well, what are you doing? Like that attitude is so prevalent here in the Midwest, right? And there just isn't a willingness to spend the kind of money and resources to address this problem in Indiana as there is, in other states
What are
around
some
the
of those
country.
risk factors that you were talking about?
Poor health outcomes, poor educational outcomes. Like, we rank so high in all of those areas according to the CDC. And so it really is no surprise, right? When you look at that, it's no surprise how high our DV rate is. Yeah.
Anyone else have a final question? Is there anything online, Felicia?
No, not yet.
Okay, that means you covered it.
All right.
You covered it well. Thank you so much, Elka, for that information. Very enlightening, disheartening, but also enlightening, because that lets us know that we've got to keep this problem in the forefront of our minds and services. You probably, if you're dealing with underserved populations, or even not underserved populations, if you're dealing with people, you may be touched by someone who is experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. And so now we know more in detail a resource that we can use and some of the things that we can do. I like some of those statements that you had up there, things that we can say and that we can do to be helpful. So thank you, Elka. Next, we're going to have Nia Hinton. She is the latest member of the HealthVisions Midwest team. And she's going to talk about lead. This week is lead prevention awareness week, something like that. It's a week. We're acknowledging lead poisoning. And so Nia is very passionate about this subject, and she's going to shed some light on some things that we probably haven't been thinking about. Nia.
So good morning, everyone. As Ms. Sharon stated, I am the newest member here at HealthVisions, and I am on the lead messaging campaign. Because lead is something that I don't think that we think about enough. I think it's something that we thought, oh, lead was just found in paint all those years ago and it doesn't affect us anymore, but that is actually untrue. No, it's okay. So why lead education matters. Protecting children from the exposure to lead is important to their lifelong health. Lead is naturally occurring in metals, and it can be found in the air, soil, dust in our homes, from paint. So although we're like, oh, you know, that paint, it might have been painted over, it's not that same old paint. As a home deteriorates and that dust is created, thus exposing us again to that lead in our children. We really want to hone in on how it affects our children just because their bodies grow at such a rapid rate. You know, they're developing, so it does affect their cognitive abilities. It does affect their IQ, their brain system, their nervous system, behavioral problems. And what they found is a lot of times, you know, where they're saying that, oh, my child is acting this way because of this, but a lot of times it has been because they have been exposed to lead. So homes that have been built before 1978 with that lead-based paint, although it was banned, it was already had been used in those homes. So that's one way. Pipes, a lot of the piping in those older homes are lead-based pipes. And, you know, if we're using that water, lead cannot be boiled out of water. And so I think that that is something that's important for people to know. Lead cannot be boiled out of water. It can be found in a lot of products and jewelry, toys that our children are playing with, jewelry that we wear as parents, you know, when we're interacting with our children. And unfortunately, it is sometimes found in candies. You know, things that we're getting imported from other countries and things like that, sometimes they are able to use lead in things. So that stuff is scary, but that's why it's so important that we keep ourselves aware and that we make ourselves aware of the effects of it. Yes, so if you notice here, so in the red, that's the highest risk areas. That's gonna be, you know, our lower income populated areas, you know, especially here in Central and South Fort Wayne, you know, older properties where younger children are living in poverty. Because the ages that you want to get your child lead tested is from birth all the way to 7 years old. And so what they, you know, what has been found is that doctors were not testing children for lead at birth. So so doctors weren't, you know, testing children for lead at birth, but so doctors and parents were finding out that their children were having difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite, constipation, speech delays, learning development, you know, as they were getting older. They weren't sure why. So after doing, you know, different blood tests, and it was coming up that lead was found in our blood, we found out that lead can cause a lot of these different effects in our children, which is why in January, on January 1st, 2023, House Enrolled Act 1313, it went into effect. And so it was a law that required healthcare providers to confirm that children under the age of 7 have been tested for lead. And if they hadn't been tested, then providers had to offer that testing to parents or guardians. They should be testing at the ages 1 and 2 year checkups for our children ages 3 to 6 who have not been tested. The law it is for providers, but parents and guardians should know the importance of the law and lead screening, and they should take the steps to get their child tested. Although this act was passed there are still some doctors out there that are not testing children for lead. This was passed in January 2023, but myself as a mom in 2019, I actually had to advocate for myself, for my child, because it was just something that my mom would always talk about growing up, lead. And so I had asked the doctor, I was like, hey, did you guys test it for lead? And the answer was no. And they were actually kind of shocked that I even posed that question. But I'm like, hey, I want that done, go ahead and do it. Thankfully, she hadn't been exposed to lead, but again, it's just one of those things where we think in our minds and we're trusting our doctors and our child care and our providers for our children that this should just be part of it. This is just what you're doing. However, they're not. They're not. And even still now, there are still some doctors that are not doing it. So that's why it's important to know the facts, know the information, and make sure that we're advocating for our children. So if the child is between the ages of 6 months and 6 years old, they should be tested for lead. If you're living in Allen County and you're in the 02, 03, 06, 07, and 08 zip codes, more than likely you are exposed to lead more than others would be. If your child has a sibling or a playmate that may have a high level of lead, and a lot of people are like, well, how would I know if they're in those areas? Because lead is found in the soil. So the soil that our kids may be playing with, walking on at the playgrounds at their school, very well could contain lead. And so that's why it's just important, again, to just make sure that you know the facts and if you do live in a home, or if you don't know when your home was built, find that out. If you want to get your home tested for lead, you can do that. If you don't own your home, you can ask your landlord. They can provide free lead testing kits to get your home tested. They do have people that can come out and get your home tested, because if you don't know, then you just don't know. And so lead has been an issue for a while. Again, like I had said before, it was used in a lot of consumer products that were banned. But as we're finding out, as your homes, if your home, like I said in the beginning, lead paint was used, and although it might have been painted over and things like that, as your home gets older and as it starts to deteriorate, that dust is created. And a lot of times in lower income areas, poverty-stricken areas, they can't afford to rehab their homes. They can't afford it. So they're at a higher risk for that lead exposure, because they don't even know that they're breathing in the lead. How would they know? So that's why it's just important that in 2022, actually, there was over 70,000 children between the ages of 1 and 6 tested for lead. 66,000 of those actually did the second part. So when you get lead tested, there's 2 parts to it. So it's the capillary, which is the finger prick, and then it's the blood draw. So a lot of times the doctor is doing that finger prick and they're like, oh, there's not a blood lead level found, or there is. But parents are not following up and getting that second test done, which is the blood draw, which is very important. So that way that data can be collected, so then we'll know. But we are doing better at it. We are becoming more just proactive about getting the information. Doctors, when they see that we are advocating for ourselves, it makes them want to provide that information more. So again, know the facts, get the facts, so that way we're able to present that information. And are there any questions?
Awesome. Nia, just to clarify,
Yes.
we were talking about the 66,000 who got the second test and 70,000 who got the first test. That's in the state of Indiana?
That's in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
So 66,000 got the second test done. The 76,000, they just got the first test, which is the capillary, which is just a finger prick.
Which was insufficient.
Which is it's insufficient. And then there was a threshold. So back in 2019, they had a threshold where they felt that if a child had a blood lead level of under 10 deciliters, that was considered safe. No amount of lead in the blood is safe. None. But they have since then lowered that threshold level in 2022 to 3.5 deciliters of lead. If they find that a child does contain, at minimum, 3.5 deciliters of lead, that's when they start then honing in on the preventatives and how, what we can do to stop the exposure. But the fact that they even thought that 10 deciliters of lead was okay is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. So it is one of those things that is very important that we advocate for our children, because they're the ones that's closely affected.
All right, here's some questions coming in online.
Yes.
So what's involved in lead testing in a home?
So there is a kit, if you get the kit, that you can get from the Allen County Health Department. So you can get the kit, and it's like, they'll have you like kind of scrape, like if you have the like paint in the windowsills type of things, they'll have you like scrape it in a container, and then you'll take that test and they'll test it for lead. Or again, it is something that you can ask your landlord about. Your landlord has, if you're renting your home, your landlord has to provide you with lead testing if you request it. They have to do that. They cannot deny you of that.
All right,
They
and
can't evict you for it either.
okay, wonderful. What are some of the codes or standards for allowable levels? So you kind of touched on that.
But again, so it has been lowered to 3.5 deciliters, but let's not get excited about that. It should be 0. It should be none. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our hands clean, make sure we're washing our kids' hands, our babies' hands. People think it's crazy, but we need to wash our babies' hands too. They're touching us, they're touching our jewelry, touching on our faces. We're coming in contact with all types of things as adults every single day that we're bringing home to our children. Keep our children's hands washed, keep them having a healthy diet, keep your living spaces clean, and just know the facts. Make yourself aware of this information, because it's important to know.
And another question, are there any assistant programs that are available to help with rehab if lead is found in a home?
That's a very good question. As of now, there aren't any as of right now, but there have been talks of it, and again, that is something that is so much red tape when it comes to renting if it's not a homeowner type of situation and you're trying to go to your landlord to get it done, or if you own your home. It's a lot with that because you want to make sure that you're there. They do have so rehabbers, or what do you call them, construction workers? I'm not sure what the proper term would be, but they do have some of those that do have the proper training to actually rehab lead homes, but there is not an assistance program for it, no.
The city doesn't have something going on?
No, not that we have found, no. No, not yet, but let's stay hopeful. With advocating, with presenting, with talking to you guys, and you guys seeing the need for it, and if we come together in the community, I think that the more we talk about it and the more we raise awareness to this, it could be something that can be done. I believe that it can.
What does the treatment look like for children that do have lead in their system?
So basically what that is they're going to try to figure out what was the cause, where were you exposed to the lead at? And then at that point, they would try to then get you out of that environment, change that environment, do a lot of testing, like neurological testing, to see if once you're removed from that lead situation or what that lead exposure was, if there's any improvement. But there is not a direct type of medical procedure per se that they're doing.
So they will just have to manage it their whole lives?
Pretty much, yes.
And so what are some of the conditions that lead poisoning mimics? Like
It
autism?
mimics autism, it mimics ADHD. So again, it affects our children's brain and nervous system. It affects their IQ, it affects their behavior. So that's why it's important, that's why I said make sure our children are eating healthy diet, because lead is found in some food, some candy. If our children are eating a whole lot of junk, a whole lot of snacks, red dyes, yellow dyes, like that stuff, it's just not good for our little ones. So we just want to make sure that, again, we're getting the facts and we're advocating for our children. And if you don't know if your child has been tested for lead, ask your doctor. I always say start with your child's pediatrician. Always start there, because if your child is going to a pediatrician, ask them. If you have my chart, look on it. Look at the blood work that's been done on your child since birth, and if you don't see lead, testing has been on there, ask your doctor, I want this done. I want to know.
I have a quick question for you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can this affect, I mean, you talking about children, but can it affect older people as well?
It can affect adults, but it doesn't show up the same.
Okay.
Some of us are walking around and we are. We do have
You be
lead.
leady?
Yeah, we're leadish. We real leadish and don't know it.
Okay.
So it show up as us just acting up, being mean.
Okay.
No, but no, it does. But we really want to focus on our children just because they are growing and We want to nurture that. We want to.
And they're most at risk.
And they're, thank you, the most
Yeah.
at risk.
This reminds me a little of the DB conversation in terms of what we prioritize in Indiana. We don't prioritize health and safety in Indiana. Okay,
Not by you.
we have lots of wonderful agencies who are doing their best, but from a legislative level, folks, we don't prioritize health and safety. We prioritize business, we prioritize economics, but we don't prioritize the people who are contributing, right, to those things, to the economy and to businesses. I have a quick question for you. So one of the things that I'm always concerned about in terms of exposure for children, because we see lead kiddos all the time at the center.
Right.
We're working with them every day. But are there any regulations for people who are providing in-home childcare? Because we know for women in poverty, and this hits a lot of survivors, they're relying on those they can't afford to take their kids to, and so they're relying on in-home services and home childcare services, and so many of those are on this side of town, and those zip codes that are there any regulations?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Whenever you have an in-home childcare, you do have to have your home tested for lead. That's one of the requirements on the list of having an in-home childcare. So it is. So that's the good thing, because like you said, a lot of them are in this zip code, 46806, 07, things like that. So, but it's a requirement. It's on that list.
That's good to know. Thank you.
And then I asked, what's your relationship with the schools? I mean, you present this, and when you talk about putting pressure on the city to do something about it, are you talking to the school officials?
I am, actually. I just met with, her name is Elizabeth, down at the FACE Center down at Former Community School. She manages, there's like a store down there where children can go and go shopping, but it's free for, low income, things like that. So I actually met with her to see what we can do in the school systems, how I can come in and just make parents more aware of what's going on, and how we can kind of team together to bring more awareness to this.
Awesome.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Nia. Thank you for that. As you can see, this is a big issue. We're just getting going in Allen County. The Hoosier Environmental Council is the agency that is overseeing the statewide. They have 10 affiliates across the state of Indiana. The program just started this year, where we are making people more aware. And like I said, Nia's doing a great job of getting out there. If you have ideas of areas that need to be touched, Fort Wayne Community Schools or, daycares or those types of things, please reach out to Nia, let her know. Or if you have programs or groups of people where Nia can come and give a presentation, like the one that she gave, talk to people about lead awareness. There is an assessment that she uses. One of the slides had different questions. And so there's an assessment that she uses to let people know if you are at high risk. With the zip codes that she had listed, those zip codes are included as high risk because of the age of the homes. And so all of those things are at play. But please partner with us. Let Nia know if you would like her to give a presentation at your place of work with a group of people, mothers, and so that she can come and talk about lead poisoning awareness and how we can really attack this problem, this issue in Allen County. Thank you, Nia. Okay, so moving right along on our agenda, we have some ACHEC updates. First of all, I'll just run through these really quick. Our HealthVisions team, we of course have programs that are ongoing on Thursdays. We have Thriving Thursdays. Peggy does Thriving Thursdays. We do workshops right here in the conference room for anybody who wants to participate. Peggy, what's this Thriving Thursday?
Cancer awareness.
Cancer awareness is this week. So we want people to be aware of some of those issues as well. We do a lot of chronic conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States and Indiana as well. So touch base with Peggy about the Thriving Thursdays. Also, you get that information by email when Felicia sends it out with news and events. Heal Farm Markets, this Saturday is the last Saturday of the Heal Farm Market season. That's it, it's over. I can't say that Felicia is sad, but she's the coordinator for HealthVisions. But yes, so this Saturday is it. So a lot of our the people that we serve, or maybe people in the room as well, shop at Heal for that fresh produce. Again, double up for WIC and senior vouchers, as well as SNAP. And so we double all of those benefits. And so this is a great time for people to come out, load up on fruits and veggies. November 16th, Together for Tomorrow. Cassius, you want to say a little bit about your program that's coming up?
Sure. So Together for Tomorrow, we're talking about maternal mortality and infant mortality. Two experts in the field, doctors, who serve not necessarily our community, but the state of Indiana, are gonna just bring us awareness on what's going on. But my hope is, again, with all aspires to inform, so not only inform, but empower us. So I'm asking our community leaders and individuals to be on the call as well, so that way we can give people some resources. So please, if that's your organization, I'm asking you now, hey, give me an email to let me know you're going to be on the call, so we can make sure we have that space for those resources to be given at the end of it.
Awesome. Any questions for Cassius? All right. And of course, ongoing, we have our bilingual interpretations available with Lupita Valdez. That's Spanish, and that would be medical interpretations. Also some practical interpretations that people need. For instance, if they need someone to help them at, appointment with a lawyer, or to register for school for their children or some things like that, Lupita may be available. So be sure to reach out to her and get on her schedule. Now, it's time for you all to tell us what you have going on. So what is it? What can we look forward to from you in the next month? Nobody have anything?
I do. Heather Essex Guy from the YWCA.
Yes, Heather.
So November 9th, that's a Thursday, will be the last diversity dialogue that we'll be having. Our topic is thankfulness and diversity. And so I'll be sharing a little bit about the cultural diversity history of Fort Wayne, and then I'll be sharing a couple diverse content creators, or just creators from our community as well. So I think it'll be a good time in the middle of a workday. So I think everyone should come join us at the library.
All right, YWCA has done a series of these types of workshops throughout the year. I hope you haven't missed them all, but they've done criminalization and race. They've done housing, and they've done some other things too. It's been quite a bit, and they've been really good. So if you haven't been to one, please try to make it out to that workshop on the 6th, I think she said. Okay. Anybody else online?
The 9th.
Oh, the 9th.
Oh, the 9th. Thanks, Heather. Okay. Who else?
Hi there, I do.
Yes.
Hi. Yes, Kim just texted me to remind everyone that this Saturday, the 28th, we're going to have a trunk or treat health fair from 10 to 1 at Shepherd's Hand. And trunks of treats along with health and wellness resources, including free diapers and feminine care kits, will be available. Also, blood pressure and blood glucose screenings will be available for free. And Spanish, Burmese, and Karen interpreters will be there to help the community.
Awesome. Okay. Shepherd's Hand does an awesome health fair. They do that a few times a year. And so please make it out to that. Like she said, they give out the free diapers, and people come for that. They're in line for that before the fair actually begins. So please tell your folks about the ability to get some free diapers, these free glucose measurements, and all of that.
Thank you.
She said, what type of interpreters? Burmese and who?
Karen. Karen, yes. Karen is a dialect of Burmese. Anybody else?
I have something.
Yes.
Hi, from Bright Point. I just wanted to bring up that the energy assistance program has started.
Okay, Ty, we're getting
So,
some delay.
people can pick up applications? Oh,
We're getting some delay. Are you, okay, so I think you're saying that energy assistance has started. It's available at Bright Point. People can pick up applications. Is that at the main office on what, Washington? Is that Washington?
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. So people needing energy assistance, please let them know that that is available through Bright Point. They can pick it up, the applications, and they can contact Ty.
Is it
Or
online?
online,
Oh.
or online, okay? Ty, can you put the address where they can go for that in the chat? Okay, who else?
Speaking of assistance, for anybody who knows or is currently working with clients who are survivors, ICADV, that's our state coalition, they have what are called economic justice funds, and if any of you know or are working with folks who, could use some of those funds, we are an agency that is approved to obtain those funds. The Y also is approved to obtain those funds. So, just make people aware that.
What are the funds? I'm sorry.
Economic justice funds.
What are
survivors.
those? What are we using those for?
It'll help survivors with just about anything.
Okay.
That will get them to safety. So, if you need your rent paid, if there's a car payment that you can't make. Okay. Something going on with childcare, just about anything. Yeah, but you have to be working with an advocate in order to access those funds.
Okay, I hope everybody heard that. Economic justice funds can be used for survivors, for rental assistance, anything that they need to kind of.
Anything that's a barrier to them.
Anything that is a barrier for them. Thank you for that. So contact Elka. Yes, Lupita.
Are those funds just for one time, for a month?
They've had to, ICDB has had to put some limitations on them. But right now, I would say just apply. Again, just have someone come to us or to the Y to work with an advocate to apply to see what happens. Because I personally, I sit on ICDB's board, and I know that sometimes exceptions can be made. Don't take that outside of this room.
What about people with no social security number?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, people with no social security number can also be eligible for that. I'm repeating it because I'm not sure people online can hear. So that's why I'm repeating all of these things. Okay, and ICADV, what is that?
The Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. They're the state coalition that organizations like CFN are accountable to.
Indiana Division.
Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
So, question, so does it have to be like a current domestic violence situation? Or could it be like somebody who's living out of trauma from
Still
past?
recovering from it, exactly, yeah. Really, the primary stipulation is they have to be working with an advocate.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Awesome. Anything else? Other things that are going on with your agencies that you want to share? I know Anthem has a grant. You sent out a grant notice.
Yes, and an interfaith grant, so that's for faith-based organizations. There's some key points that they're working on, which are probably familiar to a lot of us. They're state initiatives, so if anybody wants information about that, I'm happy to send that to you.
Okay, faith-based grant. I'm sorry.
It's a faith-based grant.
Okay, available through Anthem Insurance. Contact Brandy. Anybody else? Before we go on ahead and start our networking for the people who came in person. Those who did not come in person, sorry, you won't get any of these fresh croissants. Your choice.
I would like to share, as the non-health professional here, but as she said, it's my first time. I'm actually a human services guy. It's really my lifelong work. I came on the bank at Lake City. Due to my work, I still serve the same populations of the people that you guys are working with. So we have a lot of good products and things. And if anybody that you know is interested in financial literacy classes, or is to a point where they want to purchase a home, we have some 0 down stuff going on. And I'm there in a non-threatening way to help educate and teach. So I'm just putting it out there.
Will you be available to give presentations in our support groups?
Yes, ma'am. All you gotta do is call. They call.
Yeah. And what was your name again?
JJ Foster, I get your card.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so everybody heard that JJ from Lake City Bank, he's available. He works with underserved populations. He wants to give some literacy classes. Anybody want to get a home, get yourself situated and positioned for that, contact JJ. They are a member of our coalition. Anybody else? Okay, thank you all for coming out. We will see you next month at an earlier time on Wednesday, November 15th. Because of course the fourth Wednesday falls right before Thanksgiving. So come back on the 15th. We'll be here again. We may have croissants, we may have muffins. We can't tell you. You gotta come and be surprised. So we will see you then.